What's up, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of the Bottom Line on Sports, our show about the intersection between sports and money. And we like to start every show with a number. The number this week is.
The number this week is 580,000, and it has to do with the Knicks-Spurs series.
What about the Knicks-Spurs series?
580,000 more people watched game one of the Knicks-Spurs NBA final series than watched game seven of the OKC and your Indiana Pacers from last year.
You know what? I can see that because you got the Knicks, who are, for purposes of this discussion, America's team. You have the Spurs, who have a strong following from their previous regimes of success. Plus, they got the NBA's most fascinating player in Victor Wembanyama. So that doesn't surprise me. Plus, you got Oklahoma City, and don't ever call them my Indiana Pacers. You got two small markets, two boring teams. So that I ain't really going. I'm not tripping. That number doesn't really even surprise me.
But 580,000 more than a game seven of an NBA final?
Yeah, because the Knicks are that big and Wemby's that big.
I mean, Wemby is big. That's true.
Yeah, he's tall too.
He's tall. He's big. Yeah.
But I think when you put those together, people have been. The Knicks are not the Cowboys. They're not the Lakers. They're not the Celtics. They're the next team under, in terms of tiers, in terms of fan base, and what makes people tune in. And so right now, though, since we're not playing football, the Knicks are the top, the topic of America. Like all the sports debate shows, all the talk shows, they're starting the conversation with something about the Knicks. They're not even starting them about the Spurs. They're starting about the Knicks and what the Knicks got to do, and Jalen Brunson this, and Madison Square Garden that, and who's on Celebrity Row, and blah, 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 blah. Oh, and yeah, Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs are doing their thing too, but it's all about the Knicks right now, and the Knicks are driving all the conversation. What are we talking about right now? We're talking about the Knicks.
Talking about the Knicks, but I think the viewership is about NBA viewership is about a number of things. It's about star players, and it's about marquee franchises. Those two things really drive.
Okay.
Those two things really drive the viewership, and I think actually Wemby transcends the typical NBA fan.
Yes, Wemby is like the Super Bowl. Non-basketball people tune in to say, I heard there's a 7'4" French guy.
That's right.
Who trained with some monks this offseason and trained with some Navy SEALs at some point. Is he playing? I need to check this guy out. So yeah, I think there's a huge who is this Wemby guy factor. I think that's big. And then the Knicks are the preeminent franchise in the NBA right now. They're still playing, and the Knicks are the Knicks. And this will be like this. Check this out now. It'll be like this. You know what I'm about to say?
I think so.
If the Cowboys ever get to the mountaintop again.
Oh yeah, well, that's not going to happen. So we don't really need to discuss that. But
at some point it will. But the question is, will we still be alive when it happens? Because it's been 50. The Knicks won their championship in
1973.
73. I was 6 years old. At some point, and my uncle was a huge Knicks fan.
Mm-hmm.
He was and I know this because he was an artist. We were living in Buffalo at the time when I was 6 years old. He came to hang out with us because everybody comes and lives with their older sibling at some point if you have younger siblings. And he was an artist. And one of the drawings he made was what? Walt Clyde Frazier. He did a pencil drawing of him, of Frazier at the free throw line, real tight shot of him, and it hung on our wall forever.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so that's how I know he's a big Knicks fan.
Yeah.
But there was somebody who said, oh, the Knicks won the championship, baby. Don't worry about that T-shirt, man. When they go next year, we'll get one. Well, it's been 53 years. And that's why you see all these New Yorkers going crazy about their team and, just going wild because they're anticipating a championship that I hope they get. But you never know.
Yeah, it reminds me very much of when the Rangers won the Stanley Cup in what was it, 94? I think they won the Stanley Cup or whenever it was. Because the Rangers hadn't won the Stanley Cup forever. You sort of had this almost the exact same kind of reaction. The other thing about this Knicks team that I think actually helps them is I think they're pretty likable. Unlike a lot of Yankees, for example, the Yankees teams were never as likable as this Knicks team. But the Knicks team, there's a pretty likable group of people. You got the smallest guy, Jalen Brunson, is the biggest star. Their biggest player is kind of a thoughtful, sweet kind of
I was
guy.
gonna say kind of a cerebral dude.
Yeah, cerebral, good guy. It's a very likable. The coach is kind of quiet behind the scenes.
Yeah,
Uh,
not
it,
combative with the media.
yeah, not combative. It's a very unusual New York team that actually is far more likable than other New York
Yeah,
teams.
that's I like one of my favorite words. That's a very salient point right there. And I think that helps. I think it helps sell. I think it also helps that you got the three guys from Villanova with the championship background, and so people are kind of familiar with them if you follow basketball because you know that they won the championship several years ago. And so I think the Knicks are a good story for all those reasons you mentioned. And people, the Olympics, and you know this because you did broadcasting for so many years. The Olympics put up such big numbers not because anybody cares about the biathlon or any of these other sports. They care about the stories and the people
Of
involved.
course.
And the Knicks have good stories right now, just like the Spurs have good stories.
Yeah.
And when you have good stories, kind of iconic league franchises, that's why they did the numbers that they did,
Well,
and they trumped so much Game 7 last year.
yeah, well, it's interesting. Game one and game two each are 90% above the game one and game two of the year before. So they're trending really, really high, the numbers. And
Um,
we're taping this on a Tuesday night, so we only have numbers from games one and two. What also is important is that this is the first year of the NBA's new broad media deal
right?
where they because if you remember last year, you kind of knew where all the games were. No one has any idea
Oh,
where any of the games are this year, right?
no.
But that the reason no one has any idea where the games are is because it's a new media deal. And there's different partners and different distributions. TNT doesn't have games this year, and on an annual basis, the rights went up two almost three times what they were. So the rights are about used to be before this deal were about 2.6, 2.7 billion. Now the annual rights are roughly 6.9 billion. So nearly three times the rights fees went up. This could not have happened at a better time for the NBA or their broadcast partners.
No, it's what you need for continued economic growth. That's why you always want your best teams to win, and you want your biggest stars and your biggest media markets if you can help it. And if not, then you want them to be a team like San Antonio, which is not a huge media market, but has it's been basically a championship caliber franchise for most of the last 25, 30 years. So people are used to them winning and used to them being a relevant NBA team, and that makes up for their lack of media market, I think. And Oklahoma City's probably getting like that the longer that they stay a relevant team and a championship caliber team.
You know who loves this more than anybody else? These ratings, loving these ratings,
Who that? Adam Silver?
the NFL, because the
Yep.
NFL is now saying, "Aha, we're thinking about renegotiating our media rights right now too." In fact, they're starting to talk about it, and they're saying, well, the NBA media rights jumped nearly three times. The NBA, in terms of viewership, is nothing compared to the NFL.
Right.
Look what the NBA is getting. Look at premier sports products and the
Yeah.
viewership that they command.
Right.
Hey, we're the NFL. We should be able to do this too. I think it's a really important thing to watch because I do think the NFL will use this as a bargaining chip as they look to renegotiate their media deals.
Oh, there ain't no doubt they will use anything and everything. And this seems to be right in their wheelhouse in terms of where they can start negotiations because the NFL is loyal to no one but their own pocketbooks.
That's
And,
right.
and watch. And here's my big prediction coming down the road, and we'll talk about it another day. Friday night has always been sacred because it's high school Friday night. Nah, brother, that'll be gone within 5 years.
Right. That'll probably be that'll be done at the same time that there's an 18th game also.
Yeah,
You know,
it, it's just
that's all coming to the pike. So I had texted you in during game one, I think, that I thought the Knicks were after watching it for like the first couple of quarters, I thought the Knicks were going to sweep. Um, Still think the Knicks are going to win the series. Who do you think is going to win the series? It's 2-1 right now as we tape this.
Um,
2-1 Knicks right now as we tape.
you know, I thought the Knicks. Now, see, I didn't say anything because I didn't say it publicly. I had always thought the Knicks were going to win the series, but I thought they had to win it in six, since seven would be in San Antonio. Um, and so I still think they'll win it in six, but it's a little dicey because yes, they were up 2-0, but it's not like it's not like they ran away with both games. You oh, that was a very they won them, so they get all the
Right.
credit. But the games could have gone either way, so it really feels like a 7 game series to me. And if it's a 7 game series, I think the Knicks could win in seven, but I think for now, as I vacillate and go back and forth and waffle, that I think the Knicks will get it done in six, but it's going to be very taut, tenuous six.
Yeah, it's funny because before the series started, I was like Spurs in six. Literally watched the first half of the first game, and I said Spurs aren't going to win this series, and I still think that. And I thought the Knicks were going to sweep, and at halftime yesterday, I thought it was a genius, because the Knicks were up seven in Game 3. But I still think the Knicks will win. Knicks will win in five. If they don't win in five, it means they'll. It's a better story if they win in six, so they win in
Why
at
don't you
Madison
believe in the
Square Garden.
Spurs?
It's I just think it's like I think it's a little bit early for them. Sort of traditionally why I think a lot of people don't believe in them yet. I think it's a little bit early for them, and I think they're going to be great potentially in the future. I think it's tough. Uh, I think it's tough to win. I think they were kind of bailed out in Game 3. I think by some a couple of shots down the stretch. One of Fox's jumper in the lane, and Castle sort of bailout 3-pointer. Uh,
Right.
that's the only reason I thought for sure they were going to lose that game last night, even in the last 2.5 minutes. And I think that everything had to go wrong for the Knicks in this series. In this game, Towns didn't show up. Brunson missed all the shots that he would normally hit. I think so many things went wrong for the Knicks, and they still probably could have won the game. I thought the Spurs they're young, and they'll choke away another lead or two for the rest of the series, in my opinion.
Now here's an interesting theory that's been floating around. I don't know how much it's gotten to the masses, and so I don't know if it's been to New York yet. But here's a theory floating around that Brunson has to share the ball more because even though now see here's the difference because it's a nuanced point. Like Allen Iverson was a scorer. He wasn't necessarily efficient, but he's a scorer. I get you a bucket when you need a bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Brunson to me falls into the same category. He's not as dynamic a scorer as Allen Iverson, but he's a scorer. So he's always going to have a high volume of shots to match his points because of the degree of difficulty on the shots and all this other stuff. But do you think he's shooting too much? Now I don't buy into Stephen A's theory, which is he wants to be the MVP. But I just think I buy into another theory though, which is he's a little man proving that on the biggest stage I can do it with the best of them.
I think there's certainly something to that, uh, but I also believe pretty strongly that if you watched the Knicks run closely at all, they were at their best when the offense ran through Karl Anthony Towns.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, in Game 3, Brunson reminded me, not the same, but he reminded me of, the old Carmelo Anthony days where Carmelo Anthony was the quintessential ball stopper. It went
Yeah,
in his hands, and that was it. And I don't think Brunson's like Carmelo at all that way, but that's essentially what happened. They didn't get into their offense until 6 or 7 seconds left on the shot clock. And
yeah,
I think there's that. The other thing too is that he's a little guy. Whether he gets worn down or not, I don't know because he hasn't played that much in the last month, so it's hard to say. But they're picking him up full court. They got bigger players on him. I think that his overall usage rate probably needs to be less, and I think they have to flow through Cat the offense should flow through Cat, I think they'll be a lot better. They've been a lot better that way in the last, month or two.
Right. So it's just an interesting thing to watch, and so we'll see. So bottom line for me, the Knicks will still get it done in six, but they'll have even more viewers over the next 4 games,
Yeah.
3 games.
But bottom line for me is stars like Wemby and star franchises like the Knicks are what's going to drive viewership, and which is what will always drive viewership for the NBA.
The World Cup starts Thursday. I'm excited. I love soccer. And I don't care how many goals they score if it's an up and down game. If people are attacking, it can be a beautiful 1-0 game, just like a 1-0 hockey game can be fantastic if people are playing the right way. It could also be like watching paint dry if the other team is scared and they don't really attack and they want to play 11
Yeah.
back on defense.
The group stage games are a little bit tricky. They have more of a tendency to be not particularly interesting because
Yeah,
they're
because
not.
everybody's trying to protect their goal
Yeah,
differential, and
yeah,
I don't want to mess up and not get against a bad team, so they play
exactly.
conservatively. So I'm hoping the games will be good. But I love the World Cup. I love soccer. I own 2 video games. One is college football. The other is FIFA 26.
There you
I do
go.
not like playing John. I do not like playing Madden, NFL football for personal reasons. Uh, okay, I'll tell you what the personal reason is. I know you're curious. Way back when, like 15 years ago, I like to play the franchise mode where you build a team up. I don't like to really play online because people are goofy.
Right.
And I was playing, and this is 15 years ago, so the AI is much better now. But I looked up one year in the franchise mode, and Peyton Manning had been traded to somebody, and I was just like, he's Peyton Manning. You wouldn't trade Peyton Manning. And Randy Moss was playing somewhere. I go, you know what? This is just dumb. I can't even get into this.
And
And
so,
so
so
I
you
quit
just,
playing.
yeah.
That's why I like college football because the rosters turn over all the time anyway. So you never get attached to one player, this or that.
Mhm.
I said it was my own personal grievance, and it didn't make sense to me. So that's why I quit playing Madden. But I love soccer. I love playing FIFA. And we got a great draw in Dallas. And I was trying to figure out, like, I'm not paying an exorbitant amount for tickets. But if I thought I could do the Brooklyn Nets strategy and show up right before kickoff
Mhm.
and get a ticket, because it'd just be me, I would do that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm going to do that, but I'm going to poke around and see if I consider it. Because I went to a game last time it was in the States. They played in Dallas. I went to watch Nigeria play, the Super Eagles. And it was fun, just the atmosphere, because they're fan. When you go, it's just those teams that are playing are bringing their culture with them.
Most important event in the country by far.
Right. It's like
Yeah.
it's like the Super Bowl to them on steroids.
Huge event. Yeah.
So they're bringing their culture with them. So however they act at home when they're watching the game, they're doing that in the stands, and it is wide. And that's what makes it fun because you get to really sample the culture, especially whatever side you're sitting on, primarily. And it is wild. So the Nigerians and the Super Eagles were banging a drum and just having a blast
Mhm.
when they were here, and that must have been 20 years ago.
You know, I'm not as big of a soccer fan, but I love the World Cup for a whole bunch of reasons. It was one of the first things I ever did in TV was a World Cup. Uh, but what I do really dislike, I dislike two things. I dislike many things and many
I was going
people.
to say, you dislike more than two things.
Yeah, but there's two things related to soccer that I really dislike. One is I dislike really high ticket prices, and number two is I just dislike FIFA. And this is the perfect storm for that because FIFA has introduced this year into the World Cup dynamic pricing, kind of like Uber. At popular times, the price goes up. At unpopular times, the price goes down. However, it appears unsubstantiated. I don't know if it's true. It appears, however, that they are constraining supply in certain cases also.
Does that mean, is that a fancy way for saying they're trying to artificially raise the prices?
Who knows? Who knows? That's what it appears, but who knows? But what is how FIFA has structured it is that every ticket that goes every buyer and reseller, they get a 15% cut on. So anytime anybody buys a ticket, FIFA gets a 15% cut on the price. Anytime anybody sells that ticket, so they get 15% on either end, which essentially is pushing off the inventory risk onto the buyers and sellers and into the secondary market, while
Wow.
simultaneously controlling the tickets and the supply of tickets. And I know this because we've been talking about it this week. Is I'm going to be in LA this weekend, and I want to go to the USA Paraguay game, which happens to be Friday night in Inglewood at SoFi. And
Right.
it's I actually have the night free. I can go. And I've been watching ticket prices this week. Just this is sort of an experiment for me because I don't want to pay a lot for tickets. And my this and $3 will get you a cup of coffee. So this is my anecdote here is that I see the ticket prices that are hovering between they really the least expensive ticket prices have hovered between about 870 and 1,000,
Right.
and they've been about there, right? But what I've noticed over the last couple of days is that the prices have stayed roughly the same, but the quality of seats have gotten better. And it just makes me think there's something artificial going on or something that doesn't feel right to me about traditional supply and demand for this market. So like getting Brooklyn Nets tickets where you show up like 2 hours before the game and the ticket prices plunge, I'm going to try that strategy with USA Paraguay on Friday because it appears that there's still a tremendous number of unsold tickets or tickets that are sitting in the secondary markets still, and it's 3 days before the match. That's my theory. Now, the other
That's
thing,
because you would think with it being the U.S., the tickets would be gobbled up, like gone.
it's the tickets are getting purchased but the good seats are getting purchased. And those you can probably keep up the demand for that or there's but because people who have enough money to pay for these seats are going to get the better seats. It's now sort of the last 3 to 5,000. And again, this is my unofficial analysis. No one's been able to kind of figure this out because FIFA's in control of this. My unofficial analysis makes me think that there's kind of this 3,000, 4,000 tickets that are out there that are overpriced and that are going
Right.
to come down in price. That's what I believe is going to happen.
Well, what's the like we spend a whole lot of time talking about the get-in price for Knicks games. What's the get-in price? What are tickets ranging at for FIFA and for the US?
US Paraguay. Well, you can get the get-in price is probably now, I would say 850 to 900. You can probably get in
Right.
at the low
What's
end.
what's the
And
top of what's the top
the
end?
high end, I've seen the high end. It's all over the place on the high end because some of them are just artificially high. But I think if you really want to get a halfway decent ticket, you're looking at, 3 to 4 grand would be my guess at this point.
That's a
So
lot for opening
it's
round
it's
game.
it seems like a lot. Uh,
But
and it may very well be what the price is, but there's a lot of tickets in the marketplace in the
that,
secondary markets for sale.
I was gonna say it sounds like it's going down.
It may
But
or may not, or there may be, or it might be like an auction where people wait until the last minute to bid, and it could go up later. I don't know.
this is wild. This is wild. This is going to be a very unique World Cup, especially with our political climate. And I say that because, I've read about one of the top referees is from Somalia. They didn't let him in apparently, and I haven't seen whether he got his visa approved and he's now in. But I saw that about somebody else who was trying to get in to do something with the games. And I was just like, it just puts an interesting tint to it all, and
Well,
so it'll be interesting to see what impact, if any, that has.
I think there's a huge impact because I think that there's a reluctance to travel to the United States from a lot of countries because you don't even know if there's a fear you may not get into the country. Overall international travel from overseas countries to the United States is down
Right.
in the last year for precisely this reason. Does it mean that that I think is going to have that is already you're starting to see an impact on that on ticket prices at some of these Group 1 stage games between two smaller countries you're not seeing, ticket prices are going to be low for that. Ticket prices are 200 to 300 for some of those kind of matches.
So
So I
if you
think
just want the World Cup experience, those are the games you need to go to.
that's exactly right.
Right.
You know what else bugs me? I'll tell you what else bugs me.
Well,
Okay, about this.
this is a
This is
special day.
good.
We getting a lot of
Here's
work
another number. Here's our second number of the day.
done. That's a bonus number.
This is our bonus number. Our bonus number is $150.
$150. What is that?
That is the amount of money that some combination of FIFA and New Jersey Transit, or I think it was FIFA. I'm not sure who's actually behind this, so I don't want to, disparage anybody. But that's the amount of money that the original price it cost to go from Madison Square Garden, or I'm sorry, Manhattan to MetLife Stadium, which is where the matches are being played in the New York City area, which is, just not too far. Both those places are right next to me. So normally that's like a 20-minute train ride, 25-minute train ride. Normally on New Jersey Transit, that costs $13. The
It's
original price was
150.
150, and then there was a bit of an outcry, or a lot of an outcry, and now they've come all the way down to $98. So to get from Manhattan on a 25-minute train ride to get into MetLife Stadium in New Jersey is $98.
Wow.
It's outrageous.
Wow. I can't. That seems unwell. We don't have that problem in Dallas because nobody drives, nobody takes public
Right.
transportation. Everybody's got to have their own horse when they're coming wherever they're coming. But wow, I can't believe it. I mean, that's supply and demand, man. It's what America is built on.
I don't know if that's supply and demand. I don't know if this is what gets me. I don't know if that's supply and demand. I
It's
think,
just,
well, maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe
well,
that is.
it's we do what we. It's no different than, and I know you understand this. Uh,
It
the,
it.
the
Sorry, Chuck.
same hotel room you can buy today
Yeah.
in Los Angeles is $300 a night. The week of the Super Bowl, that same hotel room, the same basic room, the exact same room, is like $3,000 a night.
But right, but that is supply and demand because
Right.
everybody descends. It's outrageous, but that's supply and demand. This to me
This
is
brings up
more.
something else.
This to me, to give you a quasi-economic term, strikes me as a monopolistic pricing model because there's only
Oh,
one. New Jersey Transit is your only game in town to take the train.
right.
If there were like 20 trains, I'm telling you the price would not be. If there were five other
Okay.
trains that could take you there. So this is about a monopolistic pricing strategy. That's why this is not pure supply and demand.
You know what my response to that is? Shame on you, New Jersey Transit.
I don't know if New
Shame,
Jersey Transit. I don't know
shame,
who's.
shame.
I actually don't know what the. And I should have looked
Oh,
that up. I don't know what
okay.
the
Let
revenue.
me let me rephrase that. Whoever's price
Yeah,
gouging people, shame on you. Shame, shame, shame.
yeah. That used to be a segment on New York local news. Do you remember
Yes.
that segment? Shame on you.
No,
Oh my
I've
God.
never lived in New York. Why would I
There was
know what New
there was
York?
a great local news reporter on CBS Local named Arnold Diaz who did a segment called Shame on You every week or every 2 weeks. And somebody would, a viewer would say, "Hey, I'm having problems with this merchant
Yeah.
or with this thing." And he would go in and he would talk to them. And the segment would always be a large finger wag that would go on the screen that said, "Shame, shame, shame on you." It was a great segment. Used to be when everybody watched local TV, which is,
Bottom line for me, if you can get to the World Cup, get to the World Cup. Just don't try to get to the one in New York City.
yeah, I mean, the bottom line for me is dynamic pricing cuts both ways. It can go up and down, but more importantly, no one can ultimately break the law of supply and demand. And I think that's what's going to happen here.
Hey, before I forget, please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. We can use all the help you can get. We can get. Look at us. Clearly, we need help.
Uh,
Um, Now it's our favorite topic of the day. It's Ohio State's conversation. This time we went into the JJT Research Vault and we came up with a much better conversation. We started talking about Ohio State receivers, top receivers in Ohio State history, and so we now have a comprehensive list to talk about as it relates with Ohio State's best receivers. And the cutoff is really, I made the cutoff 1980 because before that it was Woody's 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I'm not even sure if they threw the ball before 1980. Um,
Yeah,
and then Earl Bruce shows up. But like, we can all talk about Hopalong Cassidy, Les Horvath,
we never
Vinny
saw him.
Danowitz,
Yeah.
Archie Griffin. Who was the top receiver in Ohio State history pre 1980? And I just thought of somebody who we might be remiss that we left him off the list.
Pre 1980.
I just thought about this guy who I know very well, and I'm like, ooh, I might have made a boo boo.
Gary Williams? I don't know. Who are you thinking of?
You're going to be disappointed in yourself.
I can't think. I can't think of it. No,
Paul,
it's going to bug me. I know, but tell me.
Paul Warfield.
Oh, of course. Oh my God. Oh my God. I totally. Yeah.
Paul Warfield, Hall of Famer,
Yeah.
Miami Dolphins, undefeated
Of
season.
course.
But we did say 1980 as a cutoff, so obviously he's way before then. I got to know Paul really well. Paul's got the softest voice of any great football
I didn't know that.
Oh man, matter of fact, I almost laughed first time I heard it. But he's a great guy, and he was doing a lot of work with Calvin Hill and the Cowboys in their player development department. So he was around the facility quite a bit, and I got to talk to him quite a bit back in the day. Great guy. Matter of fact, I had known the name and knew he was a great receiver. Had no idea he went to Ohio State until I was introduced to him because one of the people who was in charge of that department went to Ohio State, who I knew very well, and she said, "Hey, let me introduce you to another Buckeye." Said this one's a great one. And
but Warfield must have been mid-60s, right? Because he was with the Dolphins in the early 70s, so he must have been either mid to late 60s would be my guess.
Do you know who his first team was?
Was it Cleveland or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Paul Warfield, 83 years old. So now the question is, was he a first round pick? Because I have no idea.
I would say probably not, just because receivers didn't go that high around that time.
As usual, you would be incorrect. Paul Warfield.
I got Cleveland, didn't I? Yeah.
You got Cleveland right. Paul Warfield, first round pick, number 11 overall.
Is that right? Wow.
And so he must have been at Ohio State like 61, 62, 63.
That's what I figured. I figured it's probably mid-60s. Yeah, early to mid-60s. Yeah.
So, they didn't throw the ball back when Paul Warfield was playing. Okay. But Paul Warfield, this is I just saw this obviously. Paul Warfield played 13 years in the NFL. Okay. He only caught 427 passes.
Yeah. Totally different world.
Right.
Yeah.
But he caught 427 passes and scored 85 touchdowns.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's 20%. That's 20% of the passes he caught.
Not only that, his career average, 20.1.
Right, because a passing game then was a downfield passing game. It was not. Yeah.
This is insane, though.
But Paul Warfield. So the other thing about not that anybody is particularly interested, but the other thing about players in the 60s and 70s is that the only players who were really drafted were from the really big schools. So if you played wide receiver, even you went to Ohio State, if you were the best wide receiver, you went to, at the time, I guess it would be Nebraska, Oklahoma, and other schools. If you're the best, because the best players just went to a handful of schools. It reminds me of, this is what I call the Swen Nader effect. Okay.
I did not have that on my bingo card.
Who is Swen Nader, you say?
St. Louis Spirit of 76.
He backed up Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at UCLA,
right?
And he still was one of the top draft choices because all the good players went to UCLA. That's the Swen Nader, but that's kind of how the Paul Warfield's of the world, because all the good players went. Anyway, off track. So top 5 Ohio State receivers according to Jacques Taylor. And your crack team of researchers.
Now that I've had time to do it, now I got to call it back up because I didn't memorize it.
We got to have
the top 5 went. My personal top 5.
Go 5 through 1. Do it that way.
Oh, all right. It would be I'm looking because I don't think this guy is in my top 5 on this list. No, it is. And number 5 would be Joey Galloway.
Okay.
All right. Number 4, because I'm a prisoner of the moment, would be well,
Jeremiah.
yeah. I
Right.
can't put it. I need to see how his career plays out before I put him any
Right.
higher.
Certainly
Uh,
trajectory to be in the top 5, no question.
Number 3 is Terry Glenn.
Terry Glenn. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a he was a 7th pick overall.
Uh-huh.
And okay, let me be honest with you. I have a Cowboy bias because he played a couple years with the Cowboys, and we used to have some great conversations. Number 2, Marvin Harrison Jr. And I really think, upon further review, Chris Carter is probably the best one, given what
Yeah.
they did at that particular time,
Yeah.
how they operated. It's the Paul Warfield thing. If they had thrown the ball more, his numbers would have been more.
Yeah.
He played with Jim Carsata. It's not like he played with some great
Oh my God.
quarterback.
Yeah.
See that? See that? I mean, he probably played with Mike Tomczak. Still, Mike Tomczak is not a great quarterback. I mean,
But
he played in the league for a long time, but
yeah.
so that would be my top 5.
Jim Carsados, I haven't thought. The only thing I think about Jim Carsados is they ran the shovel pass like every other play when Jim Carsados was quarterback because he couldn't move, but that's a different story. So I looked up the top receivers in terms of yards.
Right?
And so the number one in terms of total yards, which is not really a fair comparison necessarily because it's different eras and, some players play longer,
Right.
as, more
They're
recent.
all playing about 3 years now, though.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Um, but what's fascinating is that the number one through the number
This is yards, right?
six yards, number one through number six, they're like 300. Actually, number one through number eight are 400 yards apart. So the number eight guy's 2,400 yards. The number one guy's 2,800 yards. So,
Right. And
but
some of that you're gonna
so
like.
you don't have, and we don't have JSN on there. He might actually be the best receiver, but he's only had one really good year.
Right.
Yeah.
He only played
Uh,
1 year, really.
but you know who's a leader in yardage?
Is it KJ Hill?
KJ Hill's 10th.
Okay. He must lead them in catches or something. Or maybe he did a while back.
What this was not. Now it looks like Jeremiah Smith, if he has more than 300 yards receiving this year, he'll be the leading receiver in terms of yards. But Emeka Egbuka is number one.
Really?
Chris Olave is two.
All right. See, it's recency bias because they threw the ball a hell of a lot.
Yeah, but to your point about Chris Carter is ninth.
He's
Which is
still ninth after all these years.
yeah, which is I'm
tells you he was
telling
a
exactly.
badass.
So I would agree with you that Chris Carter has to be. I think I think the two best receivers in Ohio State history are going to be Chris Carter and Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah,
Those I think those are in the top two, and I think Joey Galloway's got to be in the top five. Also, there's no.
You know the thing about Joey Galloway, man, and not so much I can't remember at Ohio State, but the NFL. I once had an in-depth conversation with somebody about Joey, and I think we broached this topic with him one time. It is our belief. Now we don't have any statistical evidence to prove this. It is our belief. Joey Galloway scored more walk into the end zone touchdowns than any player in NFL history. Meaning, I'm so wide open that I literally walked the last yard or two into the end zone.
Why is that? Is it just
Because
because he's a great route runner? Is it because why do you think that is?
yeah, you can't get that open. Well, two things. One, he was running 4.2. When he first got in the league, 4.29 or 4.3.
Oh, I didn't realize he had that much speed.
Oh
Okay.
my God, yeah. And he had here's the other thing. He ran really great routes because Joey Galloway is not any bigger than me, taller. Joey Galloway, well, he's like 5'11", 190 pounds, but he's very muscular. But he had size 14 feet at 5'11", which means he could plant and go because his feet, much like you, his feet were wide and they were big for his body size.
Us elite athletes often are built like that. That's true.
And so he had this great speed, and so if you get caught on play action pass slipping, you're never going. I mean, Dion might be able to catch up with him, but anybody else, Nah. And so he had all these touchdowns where he's literally jogging into the end zone, walking into the end
That's
zone.
that's that's fascinating. I heard something, and I don't remember some analyst, and I don't remember who it was, said this about JSN that
Yeah.
he said that the reason JSN is so good is because his movements are such that you can't tell when he's cutting left or cutting right, that he looks smooth the whole time. So normally when somebody is, when a cornerback or safety is on, JSN or on a receiver, you can like, they tell you to study the receiver's
Hips.
hips or the hips and then the shoulders and all that. JSN apparently they say if you watch him, he looks like he's smooth the whole time, so he's impossible for most defenders to figure out which direction he's going, which is why he's such a good receiver, even though he doesn't have, necessarily the huge
Right.
speed. Yeah.
I'm gonna go backwards for a minute. Joey Galloway, I just looked it up. At the combine, he ran 4.18 handheld, 4.24.
Oh my goodness. I didn't realize that. Oh my goodness. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's smoking. Like
that is
Dion, that's Dion kind of speed.
that's scorching speed. I didn't I actually
No, he
I
was.
just what was Ted Ginn Jr.? Was he at that kind of speed or not?
Yeah. But see, he was taller. Ted Ginn is like a legitimate like 6'2".
Oh, he was
But
that big. Yeah.
he was much slender though. He was like 6'2", 180 or 175.
Hmm.
4.28.
Okay, so he's faster than Ginn. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's just slow. I mean, he's just a different body build. But
Yeah.
because Ted had that long stride, and it took Ted just a couple seconds to get going because of that long stride. And once he got going, you couldn't catch him. You had to get him shortly after the takeoff before you get him, which I think is why he didn't have as much success in the NFL. Although he had a good NFL career and became kind of like your quintessential deep threat, but he
Yeah, he
was
was
not
good. He a good return guy always.
yeah, but he was
Um,
not, you know, he just, he had a really good career, but he was really like your classic one dimensional deep ball guy.
yeah, yeah,
Because he played 13 years and caught 412 passes. That's
yeah.
not a lot of passes.
Just like Paul Warfield. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
basically, but so what do you think this year? Chris Henry and Jeremiah Smith. I know you can't tell anything about a high school player necessarily, but
no,
who's the guy from your neck of the woods who you had mentioned to me before, the receiver?
I think his name is Brock Boyd.
He's
Uh,
getting a lot. I couldn't think of his name. He's getting a lot of love uh, uh,
yeah,
at
he
practice
was
at
getting
Ohio
it from
State.
Ryan Day, so I thought that was impressive. He plays at one of the it's probably the second most affluent neighborhood in
Yeah,
Dallas, and they've been a great football program for really since the when I started covering them when I got out of college. They were a class. They might have been a class 2A school because it was a very small community. Now they play 6A Division II, which is the second biggest.
yeah. This is
6A Division One is
six
the
A
biggest.
one is the big one. Yeah.
6A Division II, which means they got about 3,000, 2,500, 3,000 students
Yeah,
at least.
but I
Uh,
think yeah, I think Ohio State's receiving, if either one of those guys is good, I think Ohio State's receivers are going to be good, which is going to make this year's quarterback controversy even more interesting.
well, it's always going to be about the quarterback, but
Yeah.
man, playing quarterback is hard enough. We're going to sit here and say it's about the quarterback, and I'm going to sit here and say it's about the running game because if you can run the ball, and I was never really sold on the running game last year. When it worked, I was like, this is great. But
Yeah.
it wasn't like the year before where you go, oh, it works. It's just a matter of time until one of these guys breaks your back. And so until they can move people and run the ball, especially in short yardage when they want to, then you can really play action. You can throw it when you want to. And it only matters in those 3 or 4 games a year that matter. The other games, you're just more talented, so it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Well, you also
But
you also have a quarterback who didn't run last year.
that's the biggest thing. Hopefully, Ohio State knows how to run their program.
I mean,
So they know if he was 170 last year, he needs to be 185 this year.
mhm.
Have some weight on him because he was tiny. I still haven't figured out why they didn't run your boy Kleinholtz last year.
You're right. You're right about that.
Because my whole thing as I live in the past was when they ran him against Michigan, I was like, oh, this is great. You're like, okay, we're getting ready, and like in those situations now, we feel comfortable. He's had enough snaps that we could do that. And then in the Big Ten championship game, where if you're going to run the sneak, yeah, you'd probably want your 6'3", 230-pound quarterback to do it, who's had some snaps, and they didn't do it. And I'd be fine if I got an answer, but I haven't gotten an answer yet why they didn't do it.
It is. It's but I also think the offensive line, which I think has three returning starters this year, but the offensive line has to be better. It's all of those things that are connected. But you're to me the biggest issue with Ohio State last year is a quarterback couldn't run. I mean, that was the biggest. I mean, Will Howard was a monster and was able to run the year before. And they also, but you're also right. They also had Quinshon Judkins, who was also a monster. Ohio State didn't have any of that last year, and their offensive line was slightly above average.
Right. That's why they had issues throughout the season, even though they were winning. Uh, you know, if that's why it matters how you win. Sometimes winning is great, but if you're trying to win a championship, and I've seen it from the NFL level, it matters how you win because how you win will determine when you really play elite competition how you get down. And they did all of that, but as I say, it became clear early on they were going to have to win with defense because their offense was good, but it wasn't spectacular. And so at the end of the day, it's the defense that let them down to me,
Oh,
not not
defense
the
had
offense.
defense had two drives where they had to come through and they were 0 for 2. That's essentially what happened. Yeah.
That's it. I mean, it
Yeah.
was a great ride, but ultimately, that's it. I'm gonna remind you once again before we get out of here to subscribe, rate, review. Clearly, we're in need of help, so help us out and do that. But the bottom line for me, man, is Chris Carter, number one receiver all time in Ohio State history, with an asterisk for Paul Warfield being the best before 1980.
Bottom line for me, I can't believe Joey Galloway ran that at the combine. I don't recall that at all. That's pretty remarkable.
So for Jeremy Pink, I'm Jean Jacques Taylor. We'll holler at you next week in the next episode of the Bottom Line on Sports.
Okay. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.